May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have chosen some wonderful films. My name is Mia Morris. Thank you for joining SABIFF, San Antonio Black International Film Festival. This month, we are highlighting films by Black filmmakers that deal with the issue of mental health and mental health challenges in the African American community. Joining me is Duane Snape. He is a counselor and owner of Chosen for Hope, and Deondra Crippen, who is an associate of his, and she will also be joining us today. We will be talking to Ms. Penny T. Hollis. Hello, Ms. Penny. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Penny is the filmmaker of Maxine. So, Penny, first of all, your film was absolutely amazing. The first time I saw it, I was blown away. Um, I work in a school that actually reminded me of a couple of people in my school. But just the content of the film itself, and even the actress, Miss Antoinette Green Fisher, did an amazing job. So I'd just like to start off by asking you, can you give us a little bit about your background and your journey as a filmmaker?
Okay. Again, hello, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I started off as a filmmaker, probably like 20 years ago. When I was in undergrad at Grambling State University, I got an internship at a production company, and once
20
I
years
graduated,
ago.
yeah, I just celebrated my 40th. um, So from there, I decided to go to Howard University, got my MFA in film production, and I've just, been in love with filmmaking ever since then. And I've always said that I wanted to use the platform to tell stories that I'm passionate about that really affect our community.
And what was your impetus for writing Maxine?
Maxine is a very personal story. It's based off one of my aunt's life. Actually happened to her. She was raped in the 80s. She was a teacher in Louisiana. She was raped. And for years, it's an emotional story for me because she actually just died back in August. And I never got to show her the story. I mean, share the film with her because I'm just afraid that it was going to be a trigger for her. So, yeah, I found out probably like one of my cousins, one of my older cousins told me that she had been, I think it was probably like I'm gonna say like 10 years ago, told me a story about our aunt had been raped in the 80s. And most of my life, like people would say that she's crazy, she's crazy. She was a very intelligent lady. She was a educator. She had her master's, her plus 30. She taught English. She would correct you in a heartbeat. Um, so this whole crazy side, I didn't know that. I'm like, no, that's not my aunt. I don't know what you all are talking about. But it wasn't until my mother died. My mother was the baby of 9 kids. She was the first to die. So when she died in 2012, yes, about to be 10 years. 2012, that's when I started to see a shift in my aunt. Because although my mom was the baby, she was the glue to the family. Um, and then my aunt just started having mental breakdowns in and out of behavior units, nursing homes. And when she died, she actually was in a nursing home and she died of COVID. Her mental state was so far gone that we couldn't force her to take her medication anymore. We could not force her to even get vaccinated. We were in the process of getting an attorney at the time uh, to help us with that. We wanted her to get vaccinated and start taking her meds. So although she just died, I really hadn't had a moment to grieve her death. Why I'm going way deep in this right now. But no, this
You're
is
fine.
film. Like this is why I tell stories like this, because we don't talk about this in the Black community. Actually, you know, some of my family members, we don't like to discuss that. We have family members. My aunt was a paranoid schizophrenia, so we don't like to talk about that. We have relatives that are bipolar. I've had family members get upset with me because I talk about it. Um, but with the film, I just wanted to tell that story, what happened to her. So my aunt was the only child of my grandparents that did not have children. Um, and again, like I said, this happened, I believe in the late 80s. So I was a child when it happened. So, and her middle name is actually Maxine. So that's where the title came from. Her middle name is Maxine.
Okay.
And again, I still haven't, I think I've only shared this probably with a handful of family members. I'm just afraid of how, not so much as how they would react, or just how, you know, I'm not afraid of them being upset with me for telling the story, but just how it might be a trigger for them, because no one believed her until later that it actually did happen to her. So I don't know if those family members ever had closure of saying, you know, I'm sorry that I didn't believe you when it happened to you. So yeah, that's what a story, Maxine.
Thank
So, hi, Penny.
Thank
Hi.
I'm Duane Snape. I'm a therapist here in San Antonio, Texas,
I
from
feel like
Chosen for
I'm in
Hope.
therapy right now. Thank you.
Hey, that's what it is. Here at Chosen for Hope Counseling, first, I want to thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for having the courage, for using your talents and your abilities and your creative juices to put that on film. So often we have these deep, profound hurts, secrets, sins,
Hmm.
trauma that we carry and we keep, and we don't talk about them in our culture, in our community. And so we end up passing down those maladaptive or negative coping skills to our kids and our friends and our families. So by you expressing this personal trauma for you, this personal hurt for you and your family, it was really courageous, and thank you, because it will speak to and help other people who are going through this very same thing. And you touched on it. We don't talk about these things in our communities. So I think this is a big step, an important step, in helping us have these discussions and dialogues, not just in our homes, in our families, in our communities, and it shows our human side as well.
Yeah.
And so thank you again.
Hi, Penny. I'm Deondra.
Hi.
I really resonated a lot with your film. I could see family members in that film. So I'm so grateful that you had the courage to actually put it on, as they say, put it on wax, to bring it to the forefront, because you're right. Many times in our community, we don't talk about mental health issues, and that word crazy gets thrown around a lot.
Yes.
And nobody ever takes the time to dig deeper to find out what's truly behind the actions that they see within a person. So I really appreciate your courage for doing what you did, for telling your story, for trusting us with it to share it even here today, and to help raise awareness about mental health, because there's a stigma in our community, and I think that it helps to get the conversation started.
Yeah, I would say like I shot this film back in 2017, and after I shot it, I sat on it for over a year. Like I literally I sat on it, had to drive. It was just emotionally draining. Like, okay, I wrote it, I directed, produced it, and I'm an editor, so I was like, I can't edit this. I don't want to edit this. But then I didn't want anybody else to edit it. So finally, I did. I gave it to one of my closest friends, who's an editor. And like again, it took me a while to get that footage off the hard drive, and then even to put it into festivals. Um, Someone was just talking to me a mentor last week. He was telling me about a film fest. I was like, oh, I'm done with Maxine. I'm done with the film. I'm putting it to the side. I'm not doing anything else with this film, but just sitting here having this conversation with you all. Like, I have to get past my personal feelings and just keep pushing this film and creating other content just like this for people, because there are people who need it.
So Penny, thank you again. I just want to say that's a unique, well, that's an element that we all struggle with. We tell ourselves, we say things like, I need to put my feelings aside
Mm-hmm.
and get through with it. And so in doing so, we continue to suppress the very feelings that bubble up and that we need to talk about, to process, to discuss. Because when we don't, we become stuck in the pain and the hurt and the trauma. And so we're unable to emotionally move forward. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us. What was, not to get too wonky, what was therapeutic for you? What was the healing part for you while you were doing this film?
For me, because I'm an artist, just creating and just being able to create something that I knew was going to impact people, that I would say that was the most healing part for me. Um, to be able to even tell this story. Because, I mean, I would say this. So, back in 2012, when my mom died, it was a moment that I felt like, okay, I'm not afraid of anything. I can do whatever I can put my mind to. It's the day I walked into the funeral home and I did my mother's makeup for her funeral. At that moment, I was like, I can do anything. So being able, and that's a story that I'm working on. So being able, I think creating content, creating, writing, directing, editing, it is helping me. It's helping me mentally. It's helping me to be able to understand myself better, and also get a better understanding of what my family members went through and what some are still going through. Because I'm not just doing these stories based off, okay, this is what my aunt went through. Also, um, I do research. I go talk to professionals like yourselves, because I'm not a therapist at all. So I really want to stay true to the character I'm creating and the message that I'm trying to tell. Uh, like I really want
Okay,
to. I
Miss
want to.
Penny, I have a question for.
Think you're frozen.
I'm sorry. I think I have a delay. I apologize. Yeah. No, I do have a question as it relates to Maxine in the film and how she was able to function, because she appeared to be a key member in at the school and the faculty. So I know a lot of times we have trauma, we have things that we go through, but we still have to function, we still have to work, we still have to live life. So how
Yeah.
do you think she was able to function in the school setting, knowing that she was probably having some form of PTSD, and how were you able to demonstrate that?
So I would say the one thing in making this film, the one person I did not talk to was my aunt. So my aunt never knew that I knew this story. Um, but again, like majority of my life, I saw her functioning. I had no idea this happened to her only to the last, several years, past 10 years, I noticed. So she was also always this very strong, outspoken woman. She was quick with the tongue, like she didn't play at all. Uh, Never saw a weak side of her. I Even at my grandmother's funeral, I didn't see my aunt cry, and I walked in with her. Yeah, she was the aunt you don't play with her. Like you don't play with ain't that. So I never saw that side of her, like, again, until later, when she, like, and I don't know if I'm using the terms right, but in my what she had a mental break, and it was really, really bad, really bad. And again, when it first happened, I had no idea where this trauma was coming first. First, I thought it was like, oh my God, it's my mom, because my mom died, and then another aunt died 3 years later. But I had no idea what she went through. And my aunt was married. I was young, so I never met her husband. She got married in college, but after that, I never saw my aunt with. Well, my entire life, I never saw my aunt with a man. And again, I didn't know her story because my family, like most families in the South, black family, well, not even just in the South, but black families, we like to keep secrets. So it wasn't until older cousin spilled a secret and I found out. So with the character, I would say I wanted to show you guys something, and I can send this, but this is my aunt, and she reminded me a lot of the lead actress. So I had did and here's another picture. So I'm the little one. That's my aunt, and that's my cousin. So this was, hey, don't laugh at our hair. This was October 1st, 1988. I was 6 years old.
But you're not smiling, Penny.
Do you see what I have on? Do you see what I have on? Why did they do that to me? Yes.
Okay, okay.
So as you
No
can
problem.
see, like my aunt didn't have children, but myself, along with one of my older cousins in this picture, we were very close to her. Very close to her. So when I did a casting call years ago for another film, I think it was like my thesis film at Howard, and Antoinette walked in. I was like, oh my gosh, she reminds me of my aunt. And it's before I knew the story. I'm like, she reminds me of my aunt. And so my friend who actually edited my piece, he cast her for his film. And so when this story popped up, I was like, yeah, I didn't even audition her. I was like, I need you to play this role. Told her the story, show her pictures of my aunt, and we took it from there.
Hmm.
You cast her really well, and even stayed really true to what PTSD looks like. She played the role very well, and even some of the things that showed up in her that people to the naked eye may have missed, but just down to even the rigidness
Mm-hmm.
that she embodied, everything needing to be in order, and even down to just the clothes that she wore after it was over, because a lot of times, and even there's a scene in there where Maxine is in the conference room with the other gentleman and a female, and they even talk about the clothes aspect of things. And so one of the things that I heard Maxine say to the female co-worker, she talked about the clothes that she wore, and in that moment I even thought about the fact that, could that be reflective of just a possibility of herself, the self-blame that she may have had, because she did wear something fitted when it happened, and even just the fact that she wore the bigger clothes to cover her own body. So you actually, that the actress that you had play her, she embodied a lot of the key things that you'll see in with PTSD.
And I will say, I would add to that, is that that's the way my aunt dressed. That's exactly how my aunt dressed. She had all the color stockings. She was always well put together, even like on a casual day. Like when I say tennis shoes will be clean shoestrings, everything. So when Antoinette and I were talking, and I was telling her about my aunt, showing her pictures, how she dressed, and she mentioned this green jacket. I was like, let me see this jacket. I was like, that's my aunt. My aunt was stuck in the 80s in terms of how in terms of how she dressed. And I recall for her funeral, my oldest aunt, and I was talking to my oldest aunt, and I was like, yeah, we should bury her in some of her colored stockings. Of course, my aunt did not do that, but that would have been just true to her because that's what she wore. Like I had no idea they had stockings. Like she had the rainbow of stockings. Um, and yeah, she really didn't wear really fitted clothes and very, low cut clothing. And from the comment you just mentioned, you just said, it just made me think like, was she stuck in, back to when that happened? Because that's the way she dressed until she like probably I would say 5 years ago. And my aunt had a Jerry curl. She had a Jerry curl until like probably yeah 5 years ago when she went into the nursing home. She had a Jerry curl, so she was stuck in the 80s.
Deandra mentioned something about she mentioned something about blame and whether or not she was blaming herself and just to kind of bring that up a little bit, I think or I feel, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong, that a lot of times when we go through trauma and we go through these situations, we have a tendency to blame ourselves. Especially because I know, Penny, you mentioned that the rest of your family never believed her. And so that must have been a heavy burden for her to carry, thinking maybe she did something wrong, or maybe it was something she had no support from anyone else. So I don't know if that's something Deondra or Duane would like to chime in about, just
Well,
the
one
blame
of
and
the
the different
things
things that we go through.
Well, one of the things I was going to just highlight is some of the symptoms. There's irritability, there's hostility, there's hypervigilance that was captured in the film beautifully. There's emotional lability. There's mood swings. There's anger, depression. There are a range of emotions that was captured very well by the artist playing what post-traumatic syndrome looks like. And then there's also nuances in all of us because we're a little bit different. And so that sometimes looks different in us as we are experiencing some of these physical symptoms, but there's also the emotional ones that cause tremendous pain. And we oftentimes have difficulty, we try to hide them or
Mhm.
not allow the world to see what's going on. They oftentimes comes out when we're triggered by our senses, a smell, a sound. We might see a sweater. In this particular case, she may have saw the janitor, I believe, and it took her back into the moment when she was in her 20s, maybe in that back alley, and really significant for her.
But Miss Penny, do you know if Maxine ever received any counseling for trauma, or was it something tucked away as a family secret?
I have no idea, no clue.
Okay.
Is did your family, when you got together for Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, did you get a sense that there was um, what was the community like in your family? What was the atmosphere like?
My family, my family's always been very, very close. Um, like my grandmother had five. My grandparents had five girls and four boys. So everyone knew the Clark sisters. Everybody knew my uncles. I grew up in a very small town. But I will say my aunt was always the like, I don't want to call her the black sheep,
Hmm.
but she didn't have to be around anyone. Uh, I do recall growing up, like maybe some functions that she didn't come to. Uh, and I know she told me once before that she felt like my grandparents didn't like her or didn't love her as much as they loved their other kids. At the time, again, I didn't understand why
Hmm.
she was saying this to me or why she even felt that way. But she was the middle girl. I will say that. But I didn't like my family. I just think I just froze. Oh, my family very close. My family's very close. So that's why once when my mother did die, I thought that was my aunt's her trigger.
Hmm. I asked you that because oftentimes in our families we have these secrets and we keep them, and it's oftentimes the adults who perpetuate and keep these secrets.
Hmm.
And so we keep it going. We say, oh, we can't talk about this in front of, don't say that about so and so, or your uncle's coming over here. We can't do X, Y, or Z, and that just reinforces and double down on that behavior that we shouldn't continue doing that. And that causes it's a great fissure in the family,
Mm.
and it continues until somebody leaves a family, a divorce, a death, or somebody just can't take it anymore. Somebody reaches a breaking point uh, in a relationship, and then that person, the black sheep or the one who's always getting in trouble, will just pick an opportune time, inopportune for the other family members to just air it out. And that's when all hell breaks loose.
Now, I will say my family, we have no filter
Hmm.
at all. So no filter. They want to say something, they would say it. But again, things like that was a secret that was kept, well kept.
And I know a lot of times, one of the things that stood out to me with the film was, and it's something that you said a little bit earlier. You said, "I wonder if she was stuck there." And the thing that came to mind for me was a lot of the times when we have that pain and that grief and that trauma that hasn't been processed, a lot of the times we are stuck in that place.
Penny, I'm married and have four girls, and
Woo!
so
God bless you.
like, and so I understand the dynamic of women because I'm around them all day, every day.
Oh,
But because I'm a man, I see things like a man sees things, right? And but one of the things that resonated with me with Penny, I mean with Penny,
Maxine.
with Maxine, was that young black boy. Again, I was sharing this before we got on, right? Um, he was hopeful. He chose to help when everybody else
mm-hmm.
was freaking out.
I don't know what's going on, but the police are here and they're trying to help us.
No one has helped me. The police didn't help me the first time.
She must be sick or something. I don't know.
You helped me get into college, okay? So, let me help you now.
Freaking out. I didn't get to ask you who was that person in your life. Was it you or is it somebody like? Because there's always one, two, three, a couple people who affirm us, who validate us. I
I,
wanted to ask, where'd that come from? What was
I
that
was
about?
I would say that person from my aunt was my mother. And that
Mm-hmm.
character I knew for a fact had to be black. Like that character must be black. I didn't care about male or female. I was like, just that character must be black. Um, but again, that's how my family is. Like we, everybody got their issues, but we're very close. I did see the love that because my grandfather died when I was 4, so I saw how close my mother and her siblings were raised. Because my grandparents were popping them out. Back then they were like 2 years apart and just popping them out. So they were very close. So like again, like I really that was my mom. My mom was out of all her siblings, she was probably the closest to my mother.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that because he was the silver lining.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
the hope. He was the the validation. He was the love
yeah.
in the story. And I wanted to
Yeah.
know who was that, where did it come from. Um, so yeah,
And it sounds like your mom was your aunt's person.
She
She's
was
the
everybody's
one.
person. My mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was everybody's person for the most part.
This was delightful, Penny. Thank you so much. You're a jewel, girl. Keep it going. I can't wait to see the next film. Can't
Yeah.
wait.
Being an independent filmmaker is hard.
I know.
it's
Uh,
hard. It's hard out there in the streets, right?
it is hard, but I'm shooting something this summer. My goal is to shoot 2 short films this summer.
You go, girl.
'Cause I'm like,
And that was the thing I think that was so great about this film. You packed in 10 minutes an entire feature.
I shot that in 2 days in one location.
But
That was
that's what
one
I'm saying.
location.
But I'm talking about storyline,
Story, yep.
resolving it, us caring about the character, us feeling her pain. I mean, all of that was in 10 minutes. That's amazing. So I can't wait to see what you do with a feature if you can do that in 10 minutes with a short.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. There was a lot of meat in that. And I heard a quote a while back, and it said something like, in grief, there's not always trauma, but in trauma, there's always grief. And so a lot of times that grief and that pain gets unacknowledged, it gets unaddressed, and it's never dealt with. And so it's just sitting in there marinating. And a lot of the times it's almost, I think somewhere along the lines, we feel like if we avoid it and we don't talk about it, then it'll just go away, or we'll get past it. We can keep moving forward. And in our community, it's huge for us to just power through, put on the cape, put on the mask, and keep going.
And always in our community as well, because I grew up in a church, we would say, "Oh, we'll pray about it or give it to God." And I believe in God all day long, but also I am there for therapy. I think everyone should be in therapy.
Ms. Penny, I want to thank you so much, not only for Maxine, but as I hear you talk about future projects and what those will be about. I'm excited I'm excited and I'm thankful that you have the courage to address these issues and put them out there, because there are other people who are struggling and going through these issues, and it's just something we don't want to talk about, and it needs to be addressed. Now, as we start winding down, how can you think we as a community can help family members and other people that have been through some kind of trauma? Because as Deondra and Duane have stated, we get so used to wearing masks and just kind of going through. And even as we hear the term black sheep, I think a lot of times when you have that one family member that's just a little different, it's maybe because they put up a wall or some kind of barrier because of something that they have gone through. So what can we do to help them to either seek help or just be more supportive of them?
I think everyone really needs to work on having empathy. Put yourself in that person's situation, their shoes. Educate yourself. I think that's something we don't do in our community. We don't, when it comes to mental health, like educate yourself. My brother is bipolar, so whenever I see an article or get a chance to talk to someone, a professional, or just anybody who brings up bipolar, or I'm there, I'm listening, I'm taking notes. I even went to therapy myself to see how can I better be there for my brother, because I know nothing about what he's going through. And there are times that, family members that have mental illness, you get upset, you want to be done, you want to do this tough love. But at the same time, because that was me, I would do the tough love with my brother. I'm 10 years older than him. And I just had to, I don't know, so say the past couple of years, I just had, been just really talking to myself. Like, I don't know how it is to be, 20, to lose your mother at 20. I had her for 10 additional years. I had her 10 years before he even came. So I try to put myself in his situation and, and I ask some questions now, like I'm not just big sister now. We have somewhat of a friendship. So when he goes to his therapist, be there, be like, ask your family member, if they're in therapy, like how did your appointment go? If they want to talk, listen. And that's another thing, sometimes just listen. Just shut the hell up and listen.
Absolutely.
Don't give your opinions about something that you don't know anything about. Just listen. Because sometimes that's what people need. They just need you to listen. And that's what I'm learning too, is just, especially, again, with my brothers, just the two of us, ever since, but our parents are now deceased, so I take on this role sometimes as parent, and I have to no, stop fussing at him all the time. This is his path through life. We're two separate people. I have my path, he has his path. I have to respect that. I might not agree with some things, but it got to a point every time I would talk to him, I fuss me. And I was like, I don't want that. I want a friendship with my brother. So I just stopped doing that and started listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Duane, Deondra, you have any final words?
Well, Penny, thank you for again sharing this. It took a lot of courage to put your stuff on display for so you can show the world what you're going through and experience, and that takes courage, and that's a big step. And I just hope and pray that you continue to be ever looking forward and having the mindset that you can be present, and in your presence you can be a help. So thank you.
Well, thank you all for having me.
Thank you again, Penny. Thank you for showing that, that even in our community, we have things that we need to deal with, and that they're left unheard, and we feel unseen a lot of the times. We feel like we're alone in situations, and so thank you for presenting something in a platform that allows our pain to be seen as well, because I think in our community a lot of the times our pain is minimized and it's not addressed like it is in other communities. And so I thank you for putting that on display and putting the time that you put into it to make it as authentic as possible.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you again, Ms. Penny. Thank you, Duane and Deondra, for joining us. And thank everyone else for joining us as well. I'm glad you had the opportunity to join in this awesome conversation. I think it went really well. And I hope that you will save the date for San Antonio Black International Film Festival. We will be having our festival October 6th through the 9th of this year. And this year's theme is animation. So we're dealing with African American animators from all over the globe. And it's going to be some really awesome projects coming out. And we look forward to seeing you at the time.